Okay, this video is about carrying charges again, but really it's about project finance and corporate finance and how to understand the value of tax depreciation, deductions, and increasing tax rates and everything else. The theme of the video is going to be if you want to adjust your carrying charges for taxes, you've got to make a little equation where you recognize that any return you have, equity return that's subject to taxes, the recovery requirements for that are the return divided by 1 minus the tax rate, where the return for other things are just the same return. You don't make that taxes because those are deductible. Ah, for taxes, excuse me. Slurping around. The because I people said don't have any background noise, and I went, oh well, I just got off the 15-hour flight. Okay, the now I'm also in the middle of all this. I've been working like crazy, not crazy. I couldn't use my laptop on the plane. But I'm working on the generic macros. I've been showing you that each time, and I'm trying to show you a couple of new things each time. Here are the new things just quickly. I put remove links. I put add links to the sheet. If I add links to the current sheet, here's what happens after you press color the sheet. Okay, that maybe that's enough of this one. I'll do. It goes down, and do you see? It puts the same sheet name in anything that just has a direct link. In other words, if there's any type of formula whatsoever, it doesn't include it, but only if there's a direct link. Now, by doing that, once you put the direct link in and you color the sheet again, you have to do it twice, at least now, then when it's just a simple direct link to another input, you can see that it has a color. And some accountant, Dennis Stoya, told me to do that. He's much more than an accountant. Now, when he was an accountant, that was his rule. It's something like blue, red, green rule or something like that. So if you want to do that, now if you don't want to do that, if you want to find any external links and mark them, you can do this, or you can remove the links again after you've done that. Right. And then you would, after you remove the links, the next time you run this, it's going in through removing links. I hate it sometimes when you have links. Now we just have the regular old little numbers there. Okay? Shift alternate C. And you have to have the generic macros just open. That's it. First time I started making the videos, it was all complicated and then everything else. And just press this off so you don't, if you don't want to do that, you don't add them to the sheet. Okay, and this says when to start the columns. You might not want to do them in all the columns throughout the sheet. Okay, so I've been working on that. Big deal. All right, now, this was our simple case with no tax. We used some economic depreciation, we had some inflation. And when we computed our economic depreciation somewhere, here was our economic depreciation. We took the investment, and our depreciation was from our payment that we made with up here. This was a cost of capital. I'm sorry, I should have done it with inflation. This is the next sheet. So we have the real rate, and then we put our economic depreciation down here somewhere. And then here's the really good news about that. When you take the total amount of recovery, which is uh, uh, the return, whatever I'm doing, I'm sorry, but the return on the equity, the return on the investment stays the same, and the economic depreciation allows you to do that. I didn't emphasize that. Now to the taxes. Okay, I'm going to kind of start again. Well, here, let's press shift. Right now, do you see how it's this green color? Maybe it's not that bad, that green color, really. But if I think what I'd like to do is have it just a little bit lighter of a green color. How's that? So we go, and this is our special. Is there a lighter green color here? I don't know. Oh no! Oh, I'm so crappy at this stuff. That one. Okay, that's the color I've decided. You press the implement button. You go and press Shift Alternate C, and you just press color the sheet. And I also colored this sheet green, so these ones are links that come from the same sheet. Now this time we have taxes. I hope I'm going okay. We have taxes, and we have some inflation. Our tax rate is 40%. Inputs, inflation 2%. Okay, and this time I started with our economic depreciation. Normal thing here is to start with the real rate. Take the 1 plus the rate of return divided by 1 plus the inflation rate and subtract 1. Get a real rate. Take that real rate and then use the payment function with the investment. And when you do that, you get an inflated payment, and you figure out, well, how much do I have to recover? What's my recovery on that investment? That's 80. And then I want to figure out how much is left over to depreciate. When you figure left over, that's just the PMT and the PPMT and all this. This is just the total amount you're charging, minus the amount you need to recover on the investment. And that all nicely equals 1,000 investment amount if you inflate it with the real rate and use a nominal carrying charge kind of here. And then we go and say, okay, well, let's take our investment and use that depreciation we just computed. Perhaps I should Shift Control 1 this. Okay, so that's the same depreciation. We accumulate depreciation. This is the net amount of our investment left over to recover undepreciated. We take the initial amount from last period, it's always last period, multiply that by the nominal return. I'll put nominal perhaps by this one. And then we get our taxes. Now the taxes on the return, that's one of the key things in the video. If you have equity return profits, equity return, if you want to get your revenues from equity return, you have to pay taxes on the equity return. And then you can say, well, here are the taxes over here. So our taxes are our revenues, not our equity return, our revenues that we have to collect times the tax rate. And then you take this equation, plug the taxes in over to here, and you get the revenue times the tax rate plus the equity return. Then you just move the revenues over to this side, which means you subtract it. So you have revenue times 1 minus the tax rate is the equity return, and then revenues, you just divide that by 1 minus the tax rate. So if you have a 50% tax rate, that means you have to collect 2 in revenues for every 1 in net income. That's the old 2 for 1 thing that we used to use ages and ages ago. I don't want to tell you what I used to do, but I used to be in that kind of business. Now, if you have something like depreciation, the difference between depreciation is when you have the taxes, you subtract the depreciation for the taxes. So there's no there's a deduction. And then you plug it back in, but this time the taxes, instead of the revenues times the taxes, are the revenues minus the depreciation times the taxes. You plug it back in here, and then when you put it over here, depreciation minus depreciation times tax, revenues minus revenues times tax, or revenues times bring it on this side, equals depreciation times 1 minus tax, or revenues equal depreciation. 1 for 1. Now back to our colored sheet. Oh gosh. Then I really hope you look at this generic macro. In the next one, I'm going to say how I organized everything. So then we can say, well, this is our taxes that we have to collect are this divided by 1 minus the tax. That would be, well, of course, I have to use the tax rate itself. That would be the total revenues you have to collect. But this time we're just focusing on the tax piece of it, so we multiply it like that. And I think that's the same number. And that's the total revenues. Now, if you look at this, F11, Alt EL, it's kind of a funny looking pattern of revenue requirements. It's not our smooth increasing revenue requirements that we were hoping to get without the taxes. And then if we take the inflation rate just up here, here's our inflation index that I left in from the last video, and we take our total recovery and divide it by the inflation index, then you get another kind of funny looking pattern that isn't just now that goes down, the real recovery. You wanted that to stay the same. So now we could levelize that out. We could do it either at a nominal rate or a real rate. This real rate was that one we just computed. Remember when we did this thing where we put 1 divided by plus the return divided by 1 plus the inflation minus 1, or we could do it at the nominal rate, which is just without any adjustment. And on this one, we take the NPV. If it's real, you take the real recovery. If it's nominal, you take the nominal recovery. I could just be lazy and take the whole line. It gives you the same answer. It should. And then we take our payment function, and for the payment function, since we're going to inflate it, use the real rate and the total revenues. Now this is a lot more than 1,000 this time. It's supposed to be 40% more, but it's more than 40% because of the pattern of revenues. I'm changing this to 25%, the tax rate in Jamaica. I'm going to have a video. I'm sorry I'm digressing for just a minute, but I'm going to have a video on crimes committed in financial modeling. I think that's a better video. Oh, God, these crimes that were committed. And then we can take our nominal discount rate. Why did I put twice? I don't want to do that. That gives us our increase. Now we have a nice little increasing revenues. F11 Alt EL. That's our inflating revenues. Now we didn't have to do all of that. That's almost starting with a proof. All we had to do was take our nominal discount rate and then take the net present value of the depreciation. And the net present value of the depreciation is up here in line 30, the depreciation. And then you take that and multiply it by the tax rate. I don't know why it gave us exactly 90. Maybe there's some kind of theory behind that. Okay. And then you say, okay, well, let's take F7, and F7 was our total investment, and let's subtract the tax shield from that. So take away the tax shield. That gives us our net investment that we have to recover. That's the key. Okay. And that net investment, then you use the real rate. Discount rate in inflated, I put real. Okay, I better just abbreviate then. And then our payment factor is that real rate versus the net investment, and it's over 20 years. Then you get a number. This number is not the same as this. But notice, after you get that number, then we're going to take this number and divide by 1 minus the tax rate to get the tax effect of that number. Where's the tax rate? Up here. That gives us 106, which I just saw. Now, if you multiply that by the tax rate, that gives you only the tax effect, and there's our 106. Now, you could also just take the tax rate divided by 1 minus the tax rate. That's the old 2-for-1 factor I told you about. So, perhaps you're saying, what a waste. What a waste. There must be an easy. There is an easier way. You can use goal seeks and everything else. Okay? But we're going through in a really detailed way how to do this. So, you didn't have to do any of this stuff up first, except you needed depreciation. You did need depreciation. And then you just take the nominal rate, get the PV of the depreciation, multiply it by the tax rate, get the net amount, compute the payment, and then take your tax factor and gross it up for taxes. And then this total payment now is the carrying charge rate. And if you don't believe it, you take this carrying charge rate, you go up and take away that depreciation expense up at the top, and then that gives you the earnings. And you take away the taxes on the earnings after depreciation. And that gives you your net cash flow. And you take your net cash flow and compare it to your initial investment. And then you take the IRR, and it proves the IRR. We have our proof again. That proof, we're going to go crazy. So here's the deal. Begin with the economic depreciation. Then take the level payment and include the taxes. Okay, that was a bad explanation. Well, compute the NPV of the tax shield at the nominal rate and then use that in the payment function. Now, I made a second video. This was the one I struggled with. I was trying to compute deferred taxes. I was really trying to do this in a messy kind of way. I'm going to press Shift Control C. Let's put a different title color, and I meant Shift Alternate C. And this time, let's use kind of our standard input color and push the color sheet. I'm doing this again and again. I don't like that one, so maybe I'm going to use our flexible input color. Okay, that, one of the crimes that I'm going to show you in the sheet is coloring when you don't need to color. Okay, this is supposed to help you organize it and have it everything right. Now this time I did it in a little bit of a simpler way, but I put a different tax depreciation that's not our economic depreciation. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add some tax depreciation alternatives. Okay, so let's go up here. Let's say this is our 1 year write-off. Okay. And then, oh shit. Sorry. Oh no. I can't delete this video just for that bad word. And then let's put a 2-year write-off. And here's what we're going to do with this one. And let's put a 5-year write-off, which is a kind of real write-off in some countries. And then let's put a 5-year 5-year with declining balance. And then let's put a standard straight line. And then here's our tax depreciation. So all we need to do, as usual, I'm going to do it a different way. I know I don't like this depreciation method. Let's just use a data and a validation, and put, instead of any value, let's put a list, and get our different things here. Oh, come on. It's just got to be one. That last one we don't want. Okay. And then once you have that, you can get your little thing. And then we use our match, and we better match that against all of this. Okay. And we get a number 3, and that's our index, kind of. So we put over here equal index, and select all of the, and of course, how could I have done that? F4, Shift Control R, and delete this. Shift Control R again, Shift Control P, and let's put our 2-year write-off of 50% and 50%, and then 0. Okay. And I feel guilty about making you do this. Equal 1 divided by 5 years, as I say. Okay. Put zeros, and then whoops. And then let's do our variable declining balance for 5 years. So put equal VDB, and you put 1 for the cost, 0 for the life. You have to start with the period just before, and then take this period after that. And then you put in, let's put a 2 times factor. Okay, whoops. Just a minute. Does this have to be 0? Oh, come on. Oh, did I put the life of 5? No. Sorry, I'm doing my famous Napoleon thing. Okay. And 2. All right. Shift Control P, Shift Control R. You get a num, and the perfect time to use the if error. Okay. Which I am kind of upset about, because I used to have my own if error. Their if error is actually better than mine, of course. And then let's also go all the way up to Alt EIS enter really, really fast. And we'll go up. We need a couple more. Control R. Alt EIS enter. Oh, man. And then one more even. Oh, stupid. Here's why you need one more. Because you're going to switch the next one, which is the standard kind of straight line. I'm going to have a 20-year straight line. Equal 1 divided by 20. You need a 0 in this period and a positive number in the others. Shift Control 7 to get the depreciation. So I hope that's a little depreciation. Now, when you do the depreciation, this is period 1. I put our inputs not necessarily in the same order. Just use the lookup function. I am going to explain to you or work on a lookup function. I think it's so much better just to click on the entire lines to do it really fast, but it might slow down some big spreadsheets. So there's a whole new thing I'm working on with some new big spreadsheets. Then we put our thing here. Of course I could have now colored the sheet and showed you that that's a kind of a direct link. I'm not going to do that. So we just take our depreciation rate. And even in the 20-year case, the standard straight line case, uh-oh, it should have gone to zero. And the reason it didn't go to zero is I was stupid and I didn't put a zero out there. So now, now I am on 25. I hope you're not mad at me about how long this video. It's a little long, but I have to finish. I have tried this so many times. You'd feel sorry for me. Now you then take that present value of this depreciation, and this time I multiplied it by the tax rate. So this is the present value of the tax shield, and I use a nominal rate. Let's put our 8% maybe back here, and let's put about our 40% back here, and let's put our how about 3% inflation, okay? And then we do the same kind of thing. We say, okay, well, pre-tax, you take this difference, and I'm just repeating, but I think it's worth repeating. You compute the payment, and I'm skipping down to the correct one over here. You take the payment at the real rate, excuse me, and you inflate that payment. Excuse me for this. The payment is the same nominal depreciation tax shield. And then you compute the taxes on the inflated payment, just like we did before. So you get your total inflated payment. That total inflated payment now reflects different tax shields. You subtract this time the actual tax depreciation. You get the taxes you pay, and then you get the cash flow, and then you get the rate of return on the cash flow. Okay, and then you know, once you have that rate of return here, we get the carrying charge rate, and it's the real carrying charge rate that I care about, which is this first number, 109, divided by the total investment, the overnight cost. And here's the big deal. Okay, now you have a pretty high inflation. If you put 0% taxes, you get 8% carrying charge. If you put 50% you get 12%. It's a big deal. But if you change it from straight line to a 1-year write-off, then the carrying charge goes all the way down to 9%. And then if you change it to 20%, it pulls you down, but not that dramatically. Remember how the tax rate went up, and if you change it to 10% or even 0%, if you get a 1-year tax write-off, it doesn't kill you nearly as much as if you had the old straight line depreciation. Okay, and if we have a 5-year write-off with declining balance, oh shoot, I forgot to put in the match, I forgot to put the 0. Sorry about that. Maybe you noticed that. Okay, so if we have a 5-year write-off, let's put a 0% tax rate. We're at 8, and a 50% tax rate. We're at 9.44, 30% tax rate, 8.74. I think you're a lot closer to the 1-year tax write-off if you have that. Now, that's also affected by the cost of capital. If you have a 5-year 5% rate, then we're down to, and let's have a 50% tax rate, and it's not that big a deal. And if you could possibly get a 1-year deduction, it's not that big a deal. And now I got another call, So I'm going to have to stop the video, and my machine's running out of power.